What if York, Vegapunk to the world government, joins Blackbeard? Teach would absolutely let her live as lavishly as she wanted, in exchange for all of the knowledge at her disposal and some sweet tech. York is such a perfect match for Blackbeard, it's terrifying. I think it's entirely possible that York was hedging her bets here by contacting both the world government and Blackbeard. This chapter made it very apparent that her intellect is well worthy of the Vegapunk name, and Blackbeard is a fantastic second choice. Of all of the pirates in this world, Blackbeard is the one most focused on gluttony and general degeneracy. You can offer York almost anything up to and including unlimited cherry pie. But also Blackbeard's goals are a bit more nefarious than just becoming the world's greatest party hippo. He may very well be going down the rocks route of world domination, in which case York would be positioning herself to become whatever the next incarnation of the world nobles are. You know, I've just realized that this arc is all about gluttons. Our main antagonist is the greedsome York, our primary emotional engagement is Big Eater Jewelry Bonnie, and as always, our protagonist is Hungry D. Luffy. It's sort of interesting, a fight to see whose greed will triumph. Like a Clash of Conquerors haki, but at a buffet. However, York is not the only reason why the Blackbeard pirates might be here. So Caribou definitely tipped off Blackbeard, right? That's the other option. The idea that the certain person Caribou needed to inform was Blackbeard. And now they've scheduled a nice little pickup for Swamp Nakama. Although the two aren't mutually exclusive, the Blackbeards could be here to pick up 2 bottomless pits with a single ship, then obtain all sorts of tech knowledge from York and get a wealth of ancient weapon info from Caribou. Actually, it's even worse than that, because Vegapunk was studying the Void Century and he took it further than Ohara did. So the knowledge York has may even make her Blackbeard's equivalent of Nico Robin, because he's probably not going to go all the way to Elbaf and read all of those books that he doesn't know are actually there. Well, he doesn't know yet. That's the thing. York's knowledge is so absurdly dangerous. She knows about all of the Elbaf stuff, so to forget everything I said. Maybe Blackbeard will go there. Maybe Elbaf is one big nexus point for this saga, primarily because Punk Records is likely to be destroyed, or at the very least damaged, during this rapidly encroaching war, so Elbaf may end up being the only way to attain this knowledge. Bigger question now, is Blackbeard himself actually on the ship? Also, this video is sponsored by True Classic, because finding shirts is difficult. For example, I'm the kind of guy whose body is just slightly too wide for his height, so shirts that fit my height are too tight, and shirts that fit my width are so long that it looks like I'm wearing a dress, which is why I was legitimately shocked when I first put on a True Classic shirt. I don't understand what kind of shirt sorcery this company has invoked, and quite frankly, I don't care. Because the fabric feels comfortable, the fit makes me look like a regular human being, and they're just amazing for relaxing and engaging in general life. These are the ultimate lounging around the house shirts. I get really annoyed when people add all sorts of unnecessary bells and whistles to clothing, because I'm a simple guy, and as such, I want a simple shirt. Because in my mind, shirts have exactly one job to do, and these shirts do that job immaculately. They are the unsung heroes of the clothing realm. And you can get 25% off any full price True Classic item with promo code GRANDLINE or by visiting this super special link. So do that thing, but for now it's back to you. Me. Bigger question now, is Blackbeard himself actually on the ship? Because I don't think so. Right now, unless some real wacky things are happening with the timeline, Teach should still be fighting against Law on Winter Island. No matter how quickly that wraps up, he will probably be too late for Egghead Island, unless he can teleport, which he can. So you know what, it's pretty useless to speculate on locations with Blackbeard. He could be anywhere at any time. Still, about half the crew is currently unaccounted for, including Shiryu, Lafitte, Katarina Devon, Vasco Shot, Sanwan Wolf, and Davalo Pizarro. So any combination of them could have been dispatched to Egghead. Also, one other very, very important person who is by far the most interesting possibility. Kuzan is on that ship. He will fight Kizaru and let the Straw Hats escape. This is why I make videos like this, because that thought was so far from my mind. And it's not a random, hey, wouldn't it be cool if X character showed up kind of situation. Kuzan himself is very much thematically tied to Egghead Island, because this arc is very Ohara-centric, both in its references to the past and its potential future. Kuzan was present during the genocide of Ohara, so he stood by rather powerlessly as Sakazuki ordered it. But now on Egghead Island, he may have the opportunity to prevent a second Ohara from happening by choosing to face Kizaru. That thought excites me a lot more than Luffy versus Kizaru, to be honest. It would also be a fun subversion. You see the Blackbeard pirate ship and go, uh-oh, the Straw Hats are in some trouble. But as it turns out, said trouble is intended for the Marines. And speaking of the Marines, something we haven't touched on in a while is, how would the battle between Blackbeard and Garp turn out? Will the news have a big impact impact on Luffy's journey. That's the thing. Garp said that they were going to Hachinosu. He literally said that. He stated their destination. He didn't say, we're going after Blackbeard, so wherever he is, that's where we will be. No, he said that they're going to Hachinosu. So they could set sail all the way there and just find the island completely empty. Because right now, Hachinosu seems to be the one place in this world where Blackbeard isn't. Although I wouldn't underestimate him because, again, Blackbeard seems to be everywhere. Amazon Lily, Winter Island, Egghead Island. He seems to be a logistical mastermind when it comes to military transportation. He understands exactly how to be in the right place at the right time. The trouble then comes from the fact that he seems to be a little bit rubbish when fighting the actual conflict. Blackbeard's planning seems to end once the battle begins. However, by that point, it's usually too late, because he has structured the nature of this conflict so well that luck just tends to favor him. It's sort of like gambling in a casino. Yes, you do have a chance to win, but the way the house is set up means that Blackbeard will always come out on top. And it's one of those things. I never quite know whether to praise Blackbeard for being intelligent or laugh at him for his demonstrable lack of basic sense. He is a walking sack of contradictory cherry pies. And you know what? York actually gives me similar vibes. Not shocked at York being smart enough to see that the world government could double-cross her. Her plan was pretty solid too, to avoid suspicion on herself. S-Snake looks so cute with that thumbs up pose. There was a shift in this chapter. That flashback presented York as much more lucid than I think we've ever seen her. Even when she was revealed as the traitor, her demeanor was very whimsical, like, hey, Stella, it's me. I did the bad thing. But in this chapter, she is much more focused and in control. And I guess this is what happens when you fuse Luffy with Stella and then get Ivankov to gender swap him. You end up with the most intelligent glutton in the world. Also, when S-Snake did the thumbs up, that was so adorable. Even more so because of York's size. She is so huge that S-Snake looks even smaller, thus compounding the cuteness. What's really fascinating though is that this whole section of the chapter is presented as S-Snake's flashback. So we're seeing inside the mind of a character who was genetically engineered to be mindless and simply obey commands. And we also get a bit of a lingering close-up of her doing all of the thinking as S-Snake flies away. And this isn't just me, right? Oda is definitely giving S-Snake more focus than the rest of the Seraphim, as if she is actually capable of thinking for herself. The fact that we see her flying away leaves a lot of questions as well, mainly what happened to Lilith, Usopp, and Frankie. S-Snake was theoretically given the order to kill each and every one of them, but I'm really starting to doubt that S-Snake is an antagonist. It might be one of those, well, technically I obeyed your orders sort of loopholes, like if York said something vague like, I want you to deal with them, and then S-Snake chooses to interpret that as, I dealt with them, yes, didn't kill them, but I dealt with them. I don't know, S-Snake just seems more human, and I don't quite have the future sight to understand her yet, but there is someone who does. Do you think Shanks can future sight an entire battle in his mind before it happens? I don't think that's how it works, but also maybe that is how it works. Like the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes abilities. Observation is the most versatile form of Haki, because it presents the user with a skill tree that's not really available to conquerors in armament. You can go down the path of sensing the world around you, you can put all of your points into sensing the emotions of those around you, or you can concentrate on situational awareness and peer into the future. So perhaps observation Haki can bloom even further, why not? And it may actually explain that fun bit of information we got about Shanks in the film Red Volume. Volume 4 Billion said that Shanks had an ability that essentially kills observation Haki, which we've mostly thought of as outright blocking it, cancelling out an opponent's ability to use it at all. But it could be something more convoluted, like Shanks seeing into the future and being able to input changes to his own actions in order to result in a simulation. And then from the opponent's perspective, they can still use their observation Haki, but they can only see one future, whereas Shanks can see multiple. It's a bit confusing about how the priority of observation Haki works. Like if two people are seeing the future and they both make changes, whose future takes priority? Does the other person then see that, like, do the futures collide? Are they different? I don't know. But if you combine this with the 10-second reference, the goal of finding the One Piece and the red hair, then One Piece has really found someone worthy of being given the title King Crimson. Not gonna lie, this is probably the first time it feels like One Piece may have reached a power scaling issue. So I've seen a fair bit of this sentiment. A lot of people are interpreting this as Shanks being a whole new level above the Big Moms and the Kaidos, because even they had more difficulty fighting Kid. I mean, Kaido might not have, but Big Mom definitely did. She has difficulty doing anything. But I think it's more of an unbalanced matchup. It's less of a difference in power and more of a difference in attitude. Shanks did the very corporate thing and conducted a risk assessment before launching into combat with Kid, and as a result, result, he came up with an effective risk management strategy, which was implemented flawlessly. Meanwhile, do you remember Kaido's original plan to deal with Kid? It went something like this. How about I, Kaido, jump off an island and we just see what happens. Even at the very end of his reign, Kaido never took Luffy seriously. I would argue that if Kaido had a more Shanks attitude towards combat, then he would not have lost to Luffy. But instead, he did the same thing. How about I let him punch me with his strongest attack and we just see what happens. So to me, it's like seeing the same level of strength applied in different ways. The fact that they gave Shanks the poneglyph rubbings without Shanks even asking for it. Brutal. That is pure dominance. Shanks doesn't need to take, Shanks doesn't even need to ask. The poneglyphs are just volunteered to him. That is a true conqueror. Also, small moment, the guy who handed over the rubbings and begged desperately for mercy was Heat, aka the one that looks like a leather zombie. And this chapter actually completes his character arc, because during the raid, Heat called Sanji pathetic for publicly begging for help. And if there's anything more pathetic than Kid's defeat, it's just how prepared Heat was to immediately drop his pants and bend over. That's Heat's entire character. He called someone pathetic, and now he is the one who is the pathetic. Oda. The names of the Kid pirates are irrelevant. I guess we now know why. So this is actually quite funny. In the SBS of Volume 102, Oda got asked a question by a Kid fan. Kid and Killer are beyond cool. The other members of the Kid pirates are drawn here and there, so could you please tell me their names? To which Oda replied, sure, I'll show you the rough sketches, but not all the members. The Kid pirates have 31 people. You don't need to remember them. And just imagine being Oda in that situation. At this stage, you've well and truly planned what's going to happen to Kid. And then this fan comes up to you and is just like, I love Kid, I love Killer, please give me more information about these very important characters in my life. So as an author, you need to be a bit like, yeah, sure, I'll tell you, but maybe don't get too attached to them. And in retrospect, this is definitely why we got Kid and Killer's whole backstory in an SBS as well, because Oda's plan for Kid essentially consisted of being a stepping stone for Shanks, and I'm okay with that. Oda took a character whose strength we were familiar with, and whose loudness we were even more familiar with, then used him to show the power of Shanks and silenced the very loud man. I just need confirmation that Law is still alive. I mean, I'm sure he's alive, but I can't guarantee he's well. Although just imagine this. Blackbeard shows up on Egghead Island, right? He does his usual but then he holds out a hand and he says, room. I really can't imagine Law getting Eustace kidded though. He still has a lot of relevance to the future being a D-Clan member, and stating that his mission going forward is to uncover the answers to everything with his inherited will of Rocinante. Law has something that Kid doesn't have, which is a reason for doing the things it is that he does. I mean, Law is almost certainly going to get thrashed by Blackbeard, but he will have a role going forward. Speaking of, Mr. Morge did a Twitter poll on what Kid's role would be going forward, to which I suggested whatever Merry's role is. It's just so hard to see him recovering his way back into relevancy. I think we've got too many other exciting things to focus on, one of which being, this may just be me, but the more I see of Shanks, the more he feels like the final boss of One Piece. Honestly, yeah. Comparing the situations, Shanks looks so much more threatening and dangerous than Blackbeard does right now. And given that Shanks is also going after the One Piece, that does make him a direct rival of Luffy. The idea of Luffy coming into conflict with Shanks is no longer a completely wildcard theory. For the first time in the series, Shanks is active and he is driven. And right now, there is probably no individual left in the world who has the power to challenge him one-on-one.